Behavioural economics on a post-it number 39. In this little video, I'm going to talk about reputation and the power of a concern for one's own reputation as a sort of motivational force. This focus upon reputation is being used reasonably widely in the development of behavioural public policy. And if you think about it, reputation is kind of an alternative way of motivating people over and above or different from motivating them with money. So, you can sometimes motivate very strong changes in performance or effort with the promise of no money at all, really, or no additional or no penalties, no additional money or no financial penalties, by trying to get people to think about their reputations. And that, as a driver for performance improvement, or as attempts to drive performance improvement, has been used quite a lot, both in public policy and in private policy, actually, trying to get companies to reduce their levels of pollution by placing them in some kind of league table, where the league table is then publicised, and the league table indicates the worst polluters down to the best, if you like, the best performing companies or industries in terms of pollution, can potentially drive improvements in performance. Reputation lies deep within the human breast, or a concern for one's reputation lies deep within the human breast. And therefore, again, as I say, with most of these sort of behavioural phenomena that I've talked about in this video series, there's probably evolutionary explanations to this. I think personally that reputation is very strongly linked to reciprocal motivations. When people don't know each other directly, they have to rely upon another aspect of people's another indicator of whether people are good or bad people to cooperate with. If you don't know them directly, how do you know that that person is a good person to cooperate with? And how we might know, to some extent, is to rely upon that person's reputation. But I'm going to talk a little bit about reciprocity in the next post-it video, the final post-it video in this series. I'm just going to demonstrate the power of reputation just with one small example that is a very old example, actually. It's from the 19th century. I read about this in a book by Joe Wolfe, I think, and it relates to a practice that was introduced by Robert Owen in a factory that he was overseeing, I think, in the 19th century. Robert Owen was a great social reformer also. And what he did in his factory, it was a cotton mill in Scotland, and he introduced this system whereby he placed a piece of wood each day, I think it was each day or every few days, next to each worker's workstation. And the wood was of different colours depending on the performance of the particular person on the previous day or on the previous period over which they'd been assessed. A black piece of wood indicated that the person had been performing quite badly, blue, okay, as I've said there, yellow, good, and white, excellent. And he placed these little, as I said, little pieces of wood above the workstations. It wasn't placed, according to the reading, it wasn't placed in a pejorative sense. So people were not being really blamed, and they were not, Robert Owen was not going up to people and saying, you've done this wrong, you've done this well, or anything. He just quietly placed the piece of wood in these positions. So as I said there, the workers apparently were never told off or praised for their performance, and their wages were not affected at all either by these indicators of their performance. Yet, after the system was introduced, the performance was significantly improved. I think it's related to a few behavioural phenomena that I may have talked about in this series. One, it relates to the motivational crowding, doesn't it? If you think about it, it's another motivational indicator or motivational characteristic over and above money, as I said a moment ago, where you can sort of potentially crowd in better performance. It's also related, I guess, to priming in this particular example, priming. So people might have had the sense that even though they were not being told off or praised, and even though their wages were not being affected, they probably did have the sense that they were being watched by their managers. And therefore, when you think you're being watched, your performance may change somewhat. A bit like the Hawthorne effect, I guess, in psychology as well, maybe linked to that. So, to conclude here, reputation, and I've not talked about it in a great deal of depth, but it can be a very, very strong motivational driver. It can be, in some cases, a more powerful motivational indicator than money. And as I said, it's been used extensively, really, in public and private practice. If you think about in public practice, public sector practice, the star rating system that was used in the British NHS in from the early 2000s onwards, to try to improve performance of hospitals in terms of waiting times, was an example of using reputational effects to improve performance. Each hospital was awarded a number of stars, from 0 to 3 stars, depending on good to very, very excellent, bad to very excellent performance, or very good performance. And each of those stars was determined by a number of indicators. Financially, performance was one of those, but waiting times was very, very prominently one of those. And after the introduction of that star rating system, waiting times in the NHS, in a period, admittedly, when there was quite a lot of heavy financial investment into the NHS, but waiting times over that period did improve very, very, very substantially in that 10-year period. Okay, so that's behavioural economics, the penultimate video, behavioural economics on the post-it number 39, reputation.